Hello, it's your boy, Nobbins. It's very dark in here. Shall I put a light on? Yes, we shall. Now, you may be wondering, Nobbins, you do realise that you've put in your stream title, your video title today, you've included a word which doesn't exist. Reactivism isn't a word. I've made it up. Now, why have I done that? So I am aware the word technically doesn't exist. It's a term that I'm coining from here on out, because I feel like it needs to be addressed, and that's what we're going to be discussing in today's video. We're also just going to be discussing Fulham game coming up, and just the sort of general, what's our general consensus on City's team, midfield especially, that sort of thing, what we're missing, etc, etc, etc. And obviously it's a Q&A back and forth show, so there'll be a lot of discussion. I don't really have a set list of things that I want to be discussing today, so I'm happy for us to go wherever, really, as I say. But thank you guys so much for joining me. Says Herbal says big up Nobbins in the chat. Big up to you, Herbal. Big up Nobbs. Absolutely, Daniel. Hello, Matty. How am I? Asks Lewis. I'm very good. Thank you, Lewis. Thank you so much for asking. Went to the gym this morning. Gonna go do some legs tomorrow. It's going to be hell because my quads still haven't healed from the other day, but we're going to go through it anyway. Now, reactivism. What's that actually mean? Well, again, it's a term I'm making up right here. It's basically a movement of those who are incredibly reactive. Now, this is something that I didn't actually know until a few days ago, because I feel like, especially in the football world, there are certain words that are used in the football world which I feel like you don't really see used that in that many other areas, or if you did, it's sort of odd how frequently they are used. So, for example, words like narrative, words like discourse, disingenuous, these are all very good words, and it's just surprising that they are used so much in the football world. Now, reactionary is another one. Now, again, this is something that I didn't know. Reactionary and reactive don't actually mean the same thing. To be reactionary is totally different. Being reactionary means that you are sort of against change in sort of like a political sense, usually. So when people say reactionary, and I was guilty of this as well, learning, it's every day is a school day and all that. What people actually mean is when they say reactionary is reactive, i.e. you are reacting too aggressively to something, like, a match result, or a player's individual performance, or a player's start to the season. So that's what to be reactive means. That's what we're going to be discussing today. And what are the implications of that, and how, and why am I talking about that on a football stream, and why is Phil Foden in the thumbnail, for example? Because we're only, I don't know how many games into the season are we? We're 6 or 7 games into the Premier League season, something like that. And it is extraordinary. I know people, again, I know in the football world, people love to react very strongly to things very quickly because it is fun. I like to do it for a bit of fun, but it's when it's sort of, when the line is blurred into people taking it seriously and not quite finding the balance there, or the line becomes blurred, that's when it becomes a bit of an oddity. So, for example, Phil Foden is now rubbish. That's a reactive thing to think or say, but he apparently is, because he's not started the season particularly well, hasn't really played that much, but who cares? He's not that good. Conversely, Caicedo is one of the best, if not the best, defensive midfielders in the league. Now Rodri is injured. Chelsea are going to challenge for the title. Cole Palmer is the best player in the world, etc, etc. So, as I say, I'm coining this term reactivism to those. This is basically like, if you are someone who is reactive, you are part of the reactivism movement. And I'm totally against that. And as I say, that's what we're going to be discussing today, as well as other things, as I mentioned earlier. Now, let me know if you guys think this is a reasonable thing to say. Daniel saying he's squatting my sister. What does that even mean? What does that even mean? I'll be taking some of the Department of Correct English. Hello, Spartacus. I'm doing well, thank you. Ryan says, do you think since you're attacking less on the left-hand side, it's too early to tell, Ryan? But in terms of the Newcastle game, that's all it was. Now, Mo was doing this earlier, and yes, I'm not calling Mo out, but I did say at the time, and I'll be making my distinction there. Jaden, hopefully you guys don't find this boring. How much can I squat? Well, I've been changing my leg routine now, so I don't do back squats anymore. I'm doing hack squats. I'm doing Smith machine barbell. I'm doing Smith machine squats. So I'm changing the setup. So check in with me in a few months, Spartacus. Terrence says that Foden Cook will be a big part of our team in a few months. Everybody's better than City, so it's time to be better than City, says Barter, and Alpha thinks it is a good topic. Hopefully do find some interest in it. And again, we won't just be talking about this philosophical conundrum, we'll also be talking about the Fulham game and our midfield composition and that sort of thing. So keep getting your feedback and thoughts in the chat, guys, because as I said, this is always a back and forth show. Now, again, let me know if you guys think this is a reasonable thing to say or to feel. My view on this has always been, it's specifically when it comes to like a comparison of players is the main takeaway here. Now, I am not comfortable in saying, outside of certain circumstances, that X player is better than Y player until I've seen a large enough sample size in respect of seasons. Not games, seasons. I need to see, personally, at least 2 to 3 seasons from a player before I'm comfortable in saying, yeah, that player is better than him. Bar some exceptional circumstances. For example, if the level is so obviously, if the gap in quality is so ridiculously high. So who's like a very basic right winger in the Premier League, guys? Who's sort of like a very basic mid-table right winger? Help me out here. I don't know who that might be. Name. I know Yamal's better than that player. Even though Yamal's only played like a season of senior football with Barcelona or whatever it is. Because you already know that Yamal is going to be a world-class player and he already is an elite player. So he's already better than, you know, average players in the Premier League. Again, I don't know who that might be in respect of like a general... Right, okay, this is a perfect one. Here we go. Right, Jacob Murphy. Oh, Anthony, yeah. Right, but this is I think this is a really good example from Jack. He's, you know, Murphy's a standard player, whatever, right? So obviously the rule doesn't apply here because I know that Yamal's better than Murphy because the golfing quality is so immediate and so obvious. It's like when Mbappe was playing for Monaco. I didn't need 2 or 3 years of watching Mbappe to know that he's already one of the best forwards in the world at that point. I didn't need another season to tell that he was better than Jesus Navas. No shade on Jesus Navas, but you know what I mean. He was clearly already better than him. So those are examples where if the golf is so great, then it's a non-starter. But what we're specifically talking about, Sterling Staffy, chill. But when that isn't the case, I just don't really understand why people leap towards wanting to crown sort of like the next big, you know, it's like the next shiny toy. I'm not having a go at Palmer in this conversation, by the way, but he seems to have become like the poster boy of this movement, if you will, and maybe just Chelsea generally. Of course, Palmer is a wonderful, wonderful footballer, but people are saying that he is the best player in the world. Now, that's insane. That is an insane thing to say. Clearly, Cole Palmer is not the best player in the world. Now, maybe he is the most in-form player in the world. Maybe based on the last 5 performances, he's the best player in the world. Maybe right now, in massive quotation marks or apostrophes, whatever the correct punctuation is there, right now, maybe. But in terms of overall, that is silly. Because because otherwise we are saying that form equals the player that you are. And that's not really true or fair, is it? Let's take a very extreme example. The 12-13 season in the Premier League. Now, Michu was one of the best strikers in the league that season, or sometimes he played second striker, didn't he? One of the best forwards in the Premier League that year. Aguero wasn't particularly good that year, partly due to injury, but he just wasn't particularly good that year for one reason or another. Now, in no world would any rational person say, right, well, Michu's better than Aguero then. No, he had a better season than Aguero, and on form, he's a better player, but we can all surely appreciate that there's the risk of that being like a blip in respect of, well, for one season he was better, but what about the next year? And if there's a massive fall off, then clearly that season wasn't a reflection of the player he actually is. That's called form. This is why we have one season wonders. That's what form is. In terms of, are you a better player? That's where longevity comes into play. It's not enough for me that you were better in a season. It's okay, now are you better the season after? And are you better the season after that? And then if the answer to all of those questions is yes, then I think it's a case of, okay, well clearly you are just the better player because you've done it at least 2 seasons in a row. There is no disputing that you are clearly the better player. So time is a factor, clearly, and this is why when we have discussions on all-time 11s, all-time, City 11s, all-time Premier League 11s, Champions League 11s, you've got to have a certain amount of... You've got to have a wide enough sample size. And for me, a season, even 2 seasons in most cases, for me, isn't enough time. For me. If you outperform for a whole season and then outperform the next season, then I'll pay attention. And then the season after, that's almost like a confirmation of, right, okay, well, clearly you are the better player. What do you guys think? Have I made myself clear there in respect of... I think Ryan's put a good comment here, to be fair. Yes, class and form are very different. Absolutely. It's all well and good having a great season. You remember when Rashford had that year where he scored... Did he score like 50 goals or something in all competitions? Or there or thereabouts? And that's very lovely. And that was a truly great season from Rashford. But Rashford is not a great player. He's not a truly great player. He is not in the same tier as some of these other guys that we know are great. Why? Because the question becomes one of consistency. It's all well and good that you had one fabulous season, but I would say that one good season is the equivalent of form. You can be on form for a season, but if you're not replicating that the season after, and then the season after that, and preferably the season after that, and so on, so on, and so on, with the obviously occasional blip, that's fine. I don't think that that one season represents you as a player. That just represents maybe you in your best version of yourself, or the best form of yourself. But again, the key there is on form and version. It's not what you are identifiably as a player. Let me know if that makes sense, lads. Or if I'm just... I might just be absolutely talking absolute rubbish there. I'll get into now, like, the relation to that in City. Smith Machine, don't give that adrenaline rush. Barbell squat also develops the core. I just don't like barbell squatting, though. That's the thing. Hack squats are horrible. They focus on the quads. I do Smith Machine squats for the booty, basically. I can't take regular barbell squats and my routine. That's fair enough, Spartacus. James Justin scored a brace last game while Haaland got no goals. Must mean James Justin is a better finisher and goal scorer. And that surmises it pretty well. If people are saying that Cole Palmer is a better player than Erling Haaland because he started the season better, and of course he was better than him last season, in fairness, that isn't to basically just discredit the entirety of Haaland's catalogue before then and seasons leading up to that point is a madness to me. It is absolutely insane. It's very boring, isn't it, Mrs. Bucket? Yes, and this is what we're sort of half addressing today. I'm doing a stats major in economics. The basic rule on stats is you can't use stats with less than 3 months of a sample size. And yeah, for me, 3 months is not even enough in a football context, because a player can be on form, you can have a great season, but is that truly reflective of you as a player? I don't know if it is. What happens to this Palmer hype if Chelsea win nothing at the end of the season, says Sarthak. It's too early in Cole Palmer's career. He will go on to be well, no, he already is a great player, but you know what I mean. I'm sure he will win lots of trophies. Hello, Elder. In economics, we say 3 months, both the correct rule is 3 cycles. Let's bring it to football. Your stat is relevant if your sample size is 3 or more seasons. That's a good point. Parma has a very clearly world-class level. Form and quality aren't mutually exclusive. Parma has the form. He obviously has the quality. And that's fine, IDK. I'm not saying that he's not a great player, because he clearly is. But I know Miss Bucket says I hate the Parma Foden Saka discussion, but I'm going to use it as an example here. Now, I'm not comfortable in saying that Parma is a better player than Saka. I agree that Parma had a better season than Saka last season, and you could argue that Parma's started the season better than Saka, and that's absolutely reasonable. But what was Saka doing before all of those years? I think he won Young Player of the Year in one of those seasons, for example, rightly or wrongly. I think he did it. Or was he up for... Was that a different year I'm thinking of? Anyway. I think that was the season I'm thinking of. Anyway. And he had that whole catalogue of his career from like 2020 onwards. So we can't just eradicate all those seasons and go, right, well, Parma's better. I don't agree with that. If Parma can... Again, very isolated comparison here. If Parma outperforms Saka for the remainder of this season, I'll be very interested in having that conversation. And if the following season it's the same theme and the same idea, then I will, and if that happens throughout the entirety of that season, then I will go, okay, it's now surely there is no doubt here because it's been happening for 3 seasons in a row. This isn't the case of form. This is just the case of this player has outperformed this player for the past 3 years now. Again, that's not a case of form. This is clearly just the level of the player. If that happens, then I'll be willing to entertain those discussions. But until that happens, I don't think it is reasonable to do that. I don't think it's reasonable to do that. Thought the title was Run Racer. No, it's a new term we are coining. A lot of Philly fans can't remember more than 5 minutes ago, Nobbins, so won't remember seasons past. And that is, I guess, an issue with football in general, isn't it? Because, you know, people say you're only as good as your last game. Well, I think that's a bollocks phrase, by the way, because Haaland had a relatively underperforming season last year from a finishing perspective. But that clearly wasn't a reflection of his quality in terms of finishing. He just happened to have an off season in terms of finishing. So I think that's silly. Do you see Overlap say Owen was a better goal scorer? Yeah, and that's just incorrect on so many levels. On so many levels. Kind of off topic, no worries at all, David. What do you think has a higher chance of happening within the next 2 years? Villa win the Champions League or the Rags qualifying for the Champions League? I'd go for United qualifying. I don't think Villa will win it, I'm afraid. I don't think that's a thing. World class equals... Well, that's totally subjective, to be honest. Knitting, that's not really the point of the discussion. It's about, as I say, it's the longevity. In terms of consistency, Saka's better, but in terms of actual quality, but I can't say that, IDK, and that's the whole point of this conversation. The quality we've only seen for a year and for a season and a bit. For me, that is nowhere near enough time. Nowhere near enough time to be able to evaluate whether a player is better than another. Thank you so much, Andrew. And this is another comparison that people are doing. Is Saliba better than Van Dijk? Not for me. It hasn't. Not enough time has passed. I thought that... Well, controversial. I actually thought Van Dijk was better than Saliba last season, but I accept that a conversation could be had, and it's totally reasonable to accept that Saliba was better than Van Dijk last season. I personally wouldn't agree with that, but let's say for argument's sake that we all agree that Saliba was better than Van Dijk last year. Let's just accept that as reality, right? Now, and this is where the other thing comes into play. You know, I mentioned earlier, if you are like totally in the early stages of your career, then there's a conversation of leapfrogging. Conversely, if a player is at the end of their cycle as a player, then it's like, right, fine. Then there's obviously an argument there to be had. But Van Dijk isn't that player for me. So even if we're saying that Saliba was better than Van Dijk last year, that's great, but that's a season. That's a season. It's not 2, it's not 3. That's where I'm interested. And I don't think that's... So for me, I'm not saying that Saliba's better than Van Dijk yet. If he outperforms in this season, then it'll be an interesting discussion. And a similar thing with next season. Again, it's all about sample size. If we're being reasonable. If we want to just go off I mean, IDK says sometimes you just got to go off feeling. If you just want to go off feeling, that's fine, but that's not really reasonable in my view, because you can't just go off feeling, because you've also got to accept that a player is more than just the last season that they had. What about the season before that, and before that, and before that? So that's why I would say for this one, for example, again, thank you so much for the super chat, Andrew. I'm still saying Van Dijk is the best centre-back in the world. Now, was he that last year? That's a different conversation to be had. But my view would be that even if we do accept that, not enough time has passed for that to happen. And this here's another one, Jason. Yes, I'm not comfortable, and this also applies to my world-class definition. I'm very glad you brought this up, Jason. I'm not comfortable in saying a player is world-class until they've had at least 2 to 3 world-class seasons. Because part of being world-class is maintaining those levels over a significant period of time. And whilst I think that Gvardiol is probably, the best left-back in the world, or whatever, certainly based on last year, maybe, and maybe also based on the starts too this year, I'm nowhere near comfortable saying that he is world-class. I think the last year you could say he had a world-class season. It's like let's take Foden. I thought Foden had a world-class season last year. I'm not saying Foden. I'm very not comfortable in saying Foden is a world-class player, because I need to see that this season and the season after, etc., etc., etc. One world-class season does not a world-class player make IMO. There's got to be that longevity, consistency. Why was I Ten Hag just now? Because, Ryan, well, first of all, I wasn't Ten Hag. It's the Fraudiola filter. It's the Baldiola filter. When someone super chats a certain amount, I go bald. Excuse me. Van Dijk is the best centre-back ever at controlling spaces. Mm-hmm. And look, people have different definitions, but for me, I think if we're being reasonable, you have to have the time frame, you have to have the longevity. Thank you very much, David. I have no idea what that currency is, but it's the equivalent of £1.20, so thank you for that. I'm placing a bet with a friend that the Rags don't qualify for the Champions League. Oh, that printed, actually. I can read it out from here, from the Haaland printer. I'm placing a bet with a friend that the Rags don't qualify for the Champions League for the next 2 seasons. How reasonable do you think that is? That's very, very reasonable. Let me know what currency that is, though. Is that NGN? Is that Nigerian? I don't know. I think that is very reasonable. I don't think they will qualify for the Champions League because we can assume that City, Arsenal, Liverpool will be there. That's 3 locked in. Chelsea are there. Villa are there. Spurs are there. So yeah, definitely not. It is Nigerian. That's a good guess from me. Thank you, Jack, for that. It's not £2,000, guys. Chill. Yeah, the software that I have can't distinguish between currency, so it just sees it as units. So I need to try to fix that, but yeah. I need to try to fix that. Can Sleeper win the cup final with kids, says Andrew. Can you name some world... Thank you so much, Tony. That's incredibly generous, Tony. That's £20. Thank you so much, Tony. Our biggest supporter, as always. That makes you the top super chatter, Tony, so thank you so much. The biggest supporter of the whole channel. Absolute madness. Thank you so much, Tony, as always. And yeah, this goes into what Rene was saying, who says, can you name some world-class players? And Tony says, who in our current squad would you label world-class? So I can do 2 birds with 1 stone. Yes. So, Rodri, world-class. Kevin De Bruyne, world-class. I now think Erling Haaland is world-class. I didn't say that in his first season with City, because I wasn't comfortable in saying that, because it'd only been, I know he'd been doing it at Dortmund, etc., but I wasn't yet comfortable in saying that. I'm very comfortable in saying it now. He just clearly is world-class. Other examples of world-class players, for me, subjective, obviously. I know it's an irrelevant discussion, but sometimes it's fun to talk about. Van Dijk, Salah, who else? Harry Kane. Mbappe. Probably Vinicius Jr. Probably. That's the ilk of player that we're talking about, or rather that I'm talking about. I think then for me there's a tier below that which I would probably label as elite, not quite getting into that conversation. For me, world class is like creme de la creme, like absolutely top of the line for me. For me, people have different arguments. I think that maybe next season, Saliba will be there. I'm not having Saka in yet. For the same reason I'm not having, Foden or Palmer in yet. Bernardo's definitely not there, no, for me. Past examples of world-class players, David Silva, Aguero, Company, Fernandinho. We're going back, Dani Alves, Busquets, Messi, obviously, Eto'o. The absolute top of the line players are what we're talking about here. Again, for me. And just linking back into the topic of today, the main topic of today, there's got to be, for me, seasons of evidence for me to be comfortable in labeling you as world-class. Ederson's a good shout. I'm saying Ederson has world-class distribution. I'm not comfortable in saying Ederson's world-class for me. Trent asks, you ask if Trent's world class. Great question. He probably is, because I wasn't comfortable in saying he was, like a couple years ago, because he was a defensive liability at times, but he has gotten a lot better in the last few years. So I think, ask me at the end of the season, I think I am leaning towards yes for that, though. I'm leaning in towards that. It's not fair. He only got a chance to showcase his quality fully last season. That's fine, but for my definition, I need more time. If he does this season and the season after, then I'll be interested. But I'm not willing to label someone as that until there's been a sufficient amount of time that has passed. Ruben Diaz is very close for me. Ruben Diaz is very, 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 very close. I think, because low-key, Ruben Diaz has had an excellent start to the season. He's been brilliant, low-key. So I think, end of this season, I might be willing to label him as world-class. I might be willing to do that. Daniel, chill. Make sure you're leaving a like on the video, by the way, guys. Once again, thank you so much to the super chatters from Tony and David and Andrew. Thank you guys so much. We do have over 100 people watching, which is great, but we've only got 38 likes, which is unacceptable, lads. Come on, let's get up to 75 likes, and let's do that. Get some more people in here. I know it's a weird title today, so people will be like, what the hell is going on? It's a bit of a weird discussion, but I'm glad that we've still got over 100 people watching this. Thank you so much, yours truly. Silver, Stones, Gundo, Walker, maybe Savio and Akanji. For me, no. I think that's too far. Too far the other way. Yaya was an example. Absolutely he was. Absolutely. Elburn is a world-class takeaway orderer. He's been doing it top level. Shut up. Yeah, I agree, Bendiv. I think end of this season, I will be saying that he is, because he's just been... He's never had a bad season at City, and it's always been an extremely high level, so yeah. No, Toby, because Diaz has been doing it since... What? He's been at this level since 2020? I think Saliba's been doing this for the past 2 years. And I didn't watch the French League, so I can't comment on that. So this is Saliba's... Or is it his 3rd year? Yes, and I said by the end of Saliba's... I said by the end of this season, then Saliba might be there. So yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Where do you rank Savio as a winger in the Premier League so far? Top 3. Wait, so what? Purely in terms of form and performances, he's... I think Grealish has been our best winger, to be honest, this season. I think Grealish has been one of our best players. I think that, obviously, Haaland, Grealish, Rico Lewis... I think he's certainly up there. Some people might say Kovacic. I think he's certainly up there. He's certainly up there. So yeah, basically the takeaway of this show, guys, you don't have to agree. This is my thoughts on it. My thoughts is that let's move away from the reactivism. Let's not go down that line and say, and this also applies to, like a player being finished or washed. So, Newcastle game happened, wasn't a good game from Gundogan, wasn't in the optimal position in fairness, but it wasn't a good game from him. And you got people saying, get rid of him, release him, get him back to Barcelona, he's absolutely finished and dusty and done, etc. Let's chill on that, right? We can't base a game, or even 2 games, or even 3 games. We can't use that tiny amount of time to judge a player. Otherwise, I would have to conclude that Mangala is the best City defender, or one of the best City defenders in the modern era. Because based on that one game he had, he was world class. But we know that's not how it works. And this is sort of also just, I'm sort of like jumping from topic to topic here. The Ballon d'Or is an interesting one because people say, well, the Ballon d'Or is given to the best player in the world. That's not strictly true. I mean, it's also not true because Haaland should have won it that year, but whatever. But in terms of what the Ballon d'Or should be, the Ballon d'Or is supposed to be an award given to the player who has been the best player that season. If it was given to the best player in the world, then Cristiano Ronaldo from 2009 onwards would never have won it. Because from that point onwards, he was better than Messi in 2008. But from 2009 onwards, Messi was undisputedly a better player than Ronaldo. But Ronaldo still won the Champions League because sometimes he had a better season than Messi. But that doesn't mean he's the better player. Indeed, Jack, and I'm just using that as an example because, as you say, the Ballon d'Or is not even that. It should be that, but it isn't even that. But that's what I mean. So technically, if the Ballon d'Or was given to the best player in the world, Messi would have won it from 2009 through to like 2023 or whenever we decided that Messi's not the best player in the world when he went to MLS, whatever. But it's not. It should be given to the player who's had the best season. And it's a similar thing. There's a distinction between being a better player and having a better season or even seasons, because you might be the better player for 2 seasons in a row. But then what if you underperform to the original person that we're comparing you to? That's when it becomes a conversation. Teams don't respect Chelsea, it's respect City. Just very briefly, this is absolutely right. I've no idea what Brighton and West Ham were thinking when they came up against Chelsea. They got Palmer and they got Jackson. They got perfect counter-attacking players, and they're just giving them the highest of lines to exploit. It's very odd. Very odd. What do you think of Kevin binning off Nations League for the rest of the year? Good. Good on him. He's came out and said this Nation League is absolute ass. So yeah. Absolute ass. Yeah, so if this is Saliba's 3rd year, then, and if he keeps these levels up until the end of the season, I will probably be comfortable in saying that Saliba is that. But he has had more seasons. But one of those seasons, I think, was only sort of alright. I don't think it was like to his standard overall. Yeah, so Gundogan underrated. People are saying he's finished. So yeah, I agree. I agree. What restaurant would you say is world class? Great question. Glad you've asked, Ryan. Great question. Dishoom, El Gato Negro, San Carlo. These are world class restaurants, guys. World class. I've never been to a Gordon Ramsay restaurant, but I'm sure they are as well. Walker last season was terrible. Absolutely, Rene. We don't talk about that. It's best performer for a season in a trophy-winning team. Exactly, IDK, yeah. If Ballon d'Or is supposed to be given to the best player in the world, Messi should win today. Yeah, probably. I don't watch MLS, but he probably is still the best player in the world, isn't he? Probably is. It's funny as Palmer being compared to young De Bruyne, despite young De Bruyne winning a Bundesliga Player of the Season over prime Bayern players and winning in the final against Pep. I'm very happy that Palmer's succeeding at Chelsea, genuinely. I really wanted Palmer to do well. Obviously not to the detriment of City. I don't want him to win the Premier League at Chelsea, because that means City aren't winning it. But on an individual level, I genuinely really want Palmer to do well. If you watch my match day vlog, Palmer rocket against Everton or something, or rocket Palmer gonna make it. It was like a match day vlog from a couple of years ago when I still did match day vlogs. And I think that was one of the first times I saw Palmer in the senior team. And I said, Palmer's going to be a Premier League player. Whether he'll be at City is another matter, but he definitely will be one. I'm very happy for Palmer. I'm very happy he's doing well. But people do need to chill on wanting to crown the best player in the world because, again, going to what we were saying before, sample size is a thing. And this sort of leads us now into the exact opposite. So maybe player underperforms or injured or whatever circumstance. And it's like, erase everything that they did. And Foden's in the thumbnail, and I've seen a lot of that going on, and it's really, really odd. Now, Foden's not even my favourite City player. He's not even my top 3 favourite City players. So before people, because I've been accused of being like a massive Foden lover, and of course I love Foden, but he's not even in my top 3 City players. I just can't even believe the amount of weird discussions that are happening around him when he's hardly even played this season because of injury or because of fitness issues, or he literally had like, actually I don't know what he had. He had something to do, which meant that he just like physically couldn't do shit. Apart from shit, maybe. I don't know if it was a tummy related issue. So like last season didn't happen, apparently, for these people, when he was literally the best player in the Premier League. That's now irrelevant. And now we're only interested in what's happening now. And now people are revising history. That people are now, and it's not just non-City fans. I think the most concerning thing for me is that it's also, there's lots of City fans saying this, and this is a concern, who are also being very reactive here. And they're saying Foden can't pass. Foden's just a, quote, turn and shoot player. Now, I have never, before like a few months ago, I've never ever seen that as a labeling of Foden's game. Before the few months ago. So when he broke into the team and stuff like 2019-ish through to 2023, whatever, that period, I've never seen that as a genuine criticism of him. In fact, Foden's shooting was never, ever his best trait or quality, nor is it now. No one ever associated that as being a trait that Foden had. Sure, he had a decent strike on him. His goal against Dortmund springs to mind, outside the box. That was nice. But if you ask people to, at the time, pre-last season, if you ask people to list what are Foden's, top 3 best traits, no one is saying his ability to shoot outside the box. Literally no one. So the fact that this has now become the only thing he can do is very, very odd to me. And it is illustrative of this reactive element of modern football discourse and discussion and conversation. Again, that was never Foden's best attributes at all. Not even his second, not even his third best. It is something he has added to his game. It is something which should be applauded, doing the hardest thing in football, scoring goals. Scoring goals from outside the box is even harder, I would argue. It's something that should be applauded, and yet somehow it's been manipulated and transformed into a burden, a detriment, whatever adjective you want to use there. And I just can't quite understand what the logic is. Imagine criticizing someone for adding that string to their bow. Surely it's the opposite. Surely it's, well, he hasn't got the end product, but he's literally added it to his game. And now, but even though that's not the case, that's now what he is. So now people watch a game and go, this guy can't pass and this guy can't create chances. I'm sorry. Did last season not happen? And did all the seasons before that not happen? Well, clearly they didn't. Because there are so many examples where Foden was creating chances, whether directly or indirectly. The data does not support the people who think that he can't create. The eye test does not support the people who say he can't create or does not create or he's not good at through balls. What was that mental... Let's have a look, actually. I sent it to someone in the Discord, didn't I? I think I sent it to Musty. Best through ball success rate in the Premier League since the start of last season. Phil Foden's second and 60%. He's higher than Paquetá. He's higher than John McGinn. He's also good at it. It's only Son who's higher than him. So this idea that he can't do that is silly. And it's just being peddled by, I'm assuming, people online or because I don't really see it in the mainstream media, so it must just be people online. Someone says something, everyone believes it and latches onto it, and they take that opinion as their own. Like, for example, I have never, ever seen in like the past 5 or so years that Foden's been playing first team football, no one has ever described him as a second striker, ever. I've never seen that before. I'm now seeing that. I saw it against Slovan Bratislava or something. One account, which I actually like, said it. That was a bit disappointing. One account said it, and then I saw someone steal that and go into someone else's comments on another City account and go, oh, the issue of Palmer is a second striker. Where's that come from? Nowhere. People are just taking other people's incorrect conclusions, claiming it as their own, putting it into the ether, and now, because perception is reality, and now that is the case, and now because of confirmation bias, whenever anything happens which slightly supports that claim, they'll be like, oh, well, clearly, we're right all along. Madness. I don't know how, and this happened like at half-time in the Slovan Bratislava game, some people in my chat as well. Some people were saying, oh, Foden's not finding Haaland well enough. The whole, or maybe it wasn't a specific critique of Foden, maybe it was just the whole team generally. Erling Haaland missed 2 big chances in that first half. Like, what are we doing here? The team were winning, what was it, 2-0 by that point? This isn't the Haaland team. Now, it's great if Haaland scores goals, of course it is. But people started the season, these same people started the season saying, oh, it's not good enough. Haaland's the only player scoring goals. We need other people to score goals. The rest of the team decide, right, let's try to score some goals. All of a sudden, it's not good enough. You need to be passing to Haaland because he's the only one scoring goals. He just can't win with these people. It's staggering to me. These weird mental gymnastics are mental. It's so weird. I've never seen such backwards logic before. It's really impressive. Let me catch up on the chat now. Lewandowski might be the... Yeah. In terms of the COVID year, and also, I still think he also should have won it that year as well, in my opinion. Dishoom, respect Dishoom. Respect him. I haven't seen nearly enough of him, Macman. Not seen nearly enough. He's apparently not very good at covering space in transition. So, if that is true, big if... I'm not impressed. I'm not interested in him. Which cities would you consider world class? Now, I actually hate cities. I dislike cities actively. My favourite city is York because it's more like a town. I don't really like Manchester, to be honest. And I live in Manchester. I don't really like it. But that's just because I don't like cities. I prefer like towns. To like visit anyway. What kind of niche-ish / unknown player will have a breakout season? What a great question. Mine's Amora for Wolfsburg. I have no idea, IDK, because my football knowledge isn't vast enough to know about niche players enough from like other random teams. So I've honestly no idea. Great question, though. I'm going to throw that back to the chat because I like that question. Which niche / unknown player is going to have a great season this year? What do you guys think? I like that question. I'm not well versed in every single league to know, but what do you guys think? So my top 3 for City players is definitely Grealish is my favourite. I think Kevin is my second favourite, and I think Haaland is probably my third favourite. That'd probably be my... I think that, but it probably changes from week to week, but there or thereabouts is the top 3, there or thereabouts. Foden's probably top 5, but for me, it's not 3. I love Edison as well, though. Oh, so many. I love so many of our players. For me, skill is the first touch. Yeah, for me, it is the first touch, and it is the small space manipulation, and must say small space dribbling. Yeah, they go way ahead of the shooting. Way ahead. And again, IDK, that's not true. That's not true. No one in the history of ever, was saying this before last season. So it's just not true. It's just not true. Why has Foden regressed as a winger? Great question. I think the reason is probably because he's trying to... So when Foden was a very good winger, a very good wide player, he can still do a job out wide, but it's got to be under very specific circumstances. I think it's because Foden had more of a dynamic mentality about his game. Now, what I mean by that is he was sort of a player who was more happy to, despite what people think... Let me go back here. Despite what people think, Foden has added temperament and pauser to his game, which, in my view, has increased his ceiling as a midfielder, but has decreased his ceiling as a wide player. Because if you think of like the 2021 year, for example, the amount of times where he just pick the ball and just like run and be incredibly direct, now I think that he's become more of a measured player, which is very good from a midfield perspective, maybe less so from a direct wide player perspective. So I'm actually happy with that change, because I'm happy because I think that he is a midfielder. People complain we don't have as many long shot goals nowadays when Foden does it. People, yeah, great summation. It's very odd. Just going back to the Palmer discussion, this is a very, very good thing. Now, obviously, as I mentioned before, genuinely huge congratulations to Palmer. I'm so happy he's doing well on an individual level. This is a very good point, though. There is one player that Guardiola has built a team around and given true freedom to, and that is Messi. He's never done it to anyone else. Didn't do it to anyone else at Barcelona. Didn't do it at Bayern Munich. Despite what people think, he's never done it at Man City. People say we built the team around De Bruyne, he built the team around Haaland, around Aguero, around David Silva, around Foden. Never happened. False, 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 false. Not once has Pep ever built the team around a player whilst at City. This is why it's another interesting comparison, because Chelsea have done that, and it's worked, and that's fantastic. We'll see long term whether that's a benefit to Chelsea or not. Whether if they can win league titles from it, then it'll be an interesting conversation to have. That hasn't happened yet. It would be very interesting to see a team where, I know that the comparisons are tiring, but people are always going to do it. Where if Arsenal built the team entirely around Saka, if Spurs built the team entirely around James Maddison, if City built the team entirely around Foden, it would be very interesting to see what happened. Indeed. Foden never plays as a second striker. How could someone get... No, Spartacus, I don't know. And this is the thing. He actually played deeper against Bratislava. He played slightly deeper. He was playing more of an 8 role at times throughout that game, rather than a pure 10. A lot of times he was doing a lot of defensive work and picking the ball from deeper areas. So the fact that conclusion came in the wake of that game is even more bizarre. At least make it a game where he is playing, up alongside the striker. Otherwise, it's just incredibly odd. Yeah, very odd. Foden isn't a 10 because he doesn't play through balls. People think creativity is limited to passing, forgetting players like Ronaldinho and Neymar who were associated with dribbling played as 10s. And as we just discussed there, Bendiv, Foden's got a 60% success rate when doing through balls, which is the second highest in the Premier League of Premier League players from the start of last season. He can do it. He did it very well against Newcastle, for example. He did it very well against Bratislava. And you are spot on. Playmaking is more than passing. It's obviously a big element of it. But if a player picks up the ball on the halfway line and dribbles, and then passes it, and then someone else passes it, I'm sorry, but the person who dribbled it from the halfway lines created that goal. Absolutely. Small county towns absolutely blow cities out of the water. Yeah, again, I'm not a fan of... Yeah, I don't like cities at all. Not for me. Not for me. You guys... Oh, these are your breakout players. Kudus. One of Brighton's players. Wharton. I hope Wharton has a great year. Jamie Gittins. Duran's looking very good, isn't he, in fairness? He's looking very good. Borges... Oh, I hope Carlos has a good time, yeah. That would be lovely. Rico Lewis. I would actually argue Lewis has already broken out. I'd say the treble winning year was his breakout year, in fairness. Where he when he did provide a City with the system to win the treble. when he forced out, in my view, the best fullback in the world for the past 2 years in Cancelo. And he's now forcing out Kyle Walker, who is, in my view, will go down as the greatest right back in Premier League history. Big up Rico Lewis. Big up Rico. Foden was never a winger. Again, yeah, totally Spartacus. He was never a winger, but he definitely could do it better then than now. I do agree with that. And yes, I think we've basically reached the same conclusion there. That's why Pep Roulette exists. Phone decision-making just isn't as good as Saka Palmer. I don't know if I agree with that, to be honest. I think a lot of it stems from the fact that Foden could probably attempt more through balls, for example. But if you look at Pep's reaction when Foden tries to do stuff like that, like I think it was the Wolves game where he did that. I think it actually ended up in an assist, if memory serves. I might be misremembering. It's a great ball by Foden. I might be misremembering, but I'm pretty sure that Guardiola went mad at Foden for attempting it. It worked, and I'm pretty sure it led to an assist. But Guardiola went mad. I don't think that this is illustrative of a player who can't do it. I think it's more illustrative of a player who is concerned that that's not what the manager's telling him to do, because if he does do it, then he gets shouted at. That's my take on that. I might be misremembering the game. Let me know, guys. Can you remember the game I'm talking about and the moment I'm talking about? I'm pretty sure that happened, and it was very unusual. It was very unusual. Let me know, guys, if I'm talking nonsense or not. Maybe the only non-Messi players Pep's built around are Fernandinho and Rodri. And for me, there's a difference between building around a player and setting up the parameters whereby a player can be optimal. For example, basics here. Put Foden in the midfield. You don't even need to build around that, but just put him in the midfield. That's putting him in an optimal position and setting him up optimally. Whereas, don't do that, and it's not optimal. Marmouche for Frankfurt. I don't watch Frankfurt, I'm afraid. It was a very lovely pass, wasn't it? Did City sell Delap? We did. I think we technically have a buyback on him. I'm pretty sure. Something like that. But yeah, again, I hope Delap does really well. Foden got an abusive relationship with his manager. I'm pretty sure that happened. Fact check me on that, guys, but I'm pretty sure that did happen. So, yeah, and that will show if you've literally got your manager, who is the best manager in the world, and in my opinion, history of the world, telling you and shouting at you, don't do that. Do you think you're going to do it more? Or do you think you're going to do it less? In my view, less. So that's the thing. And that's sort of similar to the point of when Foden came on against Arsenal and everyone was saying Foden's in the wrong position, which was correct. Foden was in the wrong position, but he wasn't in the wrong position for the sake of it. He was in that position because Guardiola told him to. And people are like, well, why does he just not listen to Pep? Right. Do you... I mean, this was surmised by Henry perfectly when he said, oh, Pep put me on the left, but I wanted to play with freedom, so I went over to the right and linked it with Messi and I scored a goal. And I got hooked at half-time. Do you really think... So if Thierry Henry can't get away with disobeying Pep Guardiola, do you really think that Phil Foden's going to get away with it? Do you think that if he just did whatever he wanted, that he's going to endear himself to Guardiola? Do you think he's going to start the next game? I don't think so. The person he should be blaming in that situation is the person telling him to go in that area. Surely. This is another good point. If we had more space, that would be lovely. But it's also just like it's also a fallacy. It's also just a falsehood because there's compilations literally of Foden doing this. He can do it, and he has done it. He did it last season. It's a thing he can do, clearly. The data tells us he can do it. The eyes tells us he can and does do it. It's what we were talking about earlier. Reactivism. And confirmation bias. Pep didn't really build around Messi. Messi went to play it down the middle 100% of the time at Pep's side. Zlatan. But in the grand scheme of things, he definitely did, though, didn't he? He definitely did. For me. As far as it can go, anyway. Phones must have been a role player, whether on the wing or false 9 or 10, which is why so many Phones games have been one-dimensional 7-key passive versus Newcastle or hat-trick versus Villa, but rarely both. We all know what the long-term solution is, just playing him in midfield. We literally won the title with him playing in midfield. He was the best player in the league playing in midfield. We know it can happen. It's easy. It's an easy fix. And I guess that's just to surmise the Foden section. That's maybe the most frustrating thing. As a massive believer in midfield Foden, it's something I've been saying for years, and anyone who watched any amount of Foden, you didn't even have to watch him in the academy. You just knew, even watching him out wide, you were like, well, this is not a winger. Clearly, this is a midfielder. Proponents of the notion of midfield Foden should have just had their... The argument's dead. The argument is dead because the first season where he played midfield, the majority of the time he played 70, and this isn't an arbitrary number. These are the stats because I watched the games and I've got my fucking spreadsheet. 75% of the season last year he played in midfield, and look what happened. Now that should be the end of the conversation, and there shouldn't be any more questioning of that point. But as we discussed earlier, because reactivism exists. Now it's like that season didn't happen. And it's like, in the eyes of these mentalists, you've got to do it again? Question mark? It's very odd. It's very odd. Last season just should have been the end of it. If teams stay the same, what percentage would you give Arsenal City to win the title? See, I don't even know anymore. Because Liverpool, you've got to account for Liverpool. You've got to account for Liverpool because they're literally top of the table right now. So you can't not include them. I would go... So before the start of the season... Well, actually, no. Before we signed anyone... Sorry, before we signed Gundogan, I thought Arsenal were going to win the league. And that was my conclusion. Because I was like, we can't go 2 years in a row without a Rodri alternative. Brought in Gundogan, great short-term player. It's like, okay, for me, that's the advantages with City now. I'm very confident in saying that we win the title, bar any ridiculous injuries. I always add that as a qualifier, bar any ridiculous injuries. We got a ridiculous injury to one of the worst players it could happen to, maybe the worst. Haaland or Rodri is probably the worst two players could have happened to. I'd also argue Ederson as well, in fairness. So my head tells me that Arsenal should win the title. Obviously I'm going to say that I think City will win, because I don't want to predict with my head when it comes to City. I want to predict with my heart. So I would predict City to win the title. But realistically, if you want me to be honest, Arsenal should be favourites. I think Arsenal will win the title, depending on how we adapt, depending on what if anything, happens in Jan. So I'd probably go 40... No. I'd go 35, 35, 30 for an Arsenal-City-Liverpool split right now. I need more time. I've not, Icarus. Tell me more. Tell me more. But why Pep tell me not to do that? IDK, go watch my Arsenal analysis video. I provide a theory as to why he did that. I provide a theory. Hated Lee Cattermole. Despised him. Just everything I hate as a footballer was Lee Cattermole. One doesn't simply not listen to Pep. That's just... Exactly. And if you don't listen to Pep, you don't play. If you don't listen to any manager, you don't play. But specifically, you don't listen to the greatest manager, you don't play. Funnily enough. If it's like the start of a game, then fine, because it's time to experiment. Chill. But if he's literally bringing you on as a sub and he's shouting at you, when you're going on the pitch, this is what you need to be doing. If you don't listen to those instructions, you are out. Even if it works, you are out. Does Pep give KDB the freedom to do whatever he wants? No, he doesn't. Definitely not. Kevin De Bruyne has a very specific role in the team. And this season, what we've seen, him going over to the left, for example, that's what he's done the most of the season. Kevin De Bruyne going over to the left isn't De Bruyne thinking to himself, I'm going to go over to the left because I want to. Sometimes I've described as Bruyne as having like a free/floating role, but that's very abstract. And if we're being totally specific, Kevin De Bruyne's role is still very, very regimented. He's instructed specifically to go over to the left by Pep. He doesn't just do it for the vibes. He does it because Pep tells him to do that. No player at City under Pep has a true free role. None of them. No player's ever had a team built around them. The closest we're getting to now was the start of the season where everything seemed to be geared towards get the ball to Haaland and get the ball to Haaland and get the ball to Haaland. That was the closest it's come so far. And that's only after like 5 or so games. So we'll wait and see on that. People often blame players, but players... Indeed. Unless like a player's going absolutely rogue, then fine. But otherwise, it's not a thing. Point is, Foden's so good at doing it that he can do it even when we don't have as many chances. Indeed. I've not seen enough of that quote, but that's surely not true. Would you like to see the 4 centre-back system tomorrow? I think Lewis needs to start. I think in the harder games, I'd like to see 4 centre-backs, but Lewis has just been so good, you can't not start him. Foden will not start tomorrow. Is that based on a source, or is that based on your brain thoughts? Surely if he doesn't start, we're screwed, because De Bruyne isn't starting, and we all saw what happened against Newcastle when De Bruyne and Foden aren't on the pitch. Madness. Pep has Foden take responsibility for one area of the game most of the time. Goals, key passes being key. Palmer, Saka, no, sorry, you're not listening to me, matey. In respect of picking up positions on the pitch, Guardiola tells players where to go. This is why in the 89th minute, he brought over Foden and Kovacic, and he told them, you stand there and you stand there. It's bullshit to say Foden doesn't do it, therefore it's his fault. No. Your criticism must be, if you think that's a problem, your criticism is not with the player, it is with the manager. It's like Gvardiol. Gvardiol in that second half against Arsenal. He was in the box alongside the striker. It is not on Gvardiol to decide arbitrarily, well, I'm pretty good at shooting from outside the box, so I'm going to position myself outside the box. It is on Guardiola, the manager, who is looking at everything to go, Gvardiol, get outside the box and start shooting. But clearly he didn't do that. It's not Gvardiol's fault, in the same way that it wasn't Kovacic's fault, in the same way it wasn't Foden's fault. There is one common denominator there, and it is the person telling those players where to stand. And who is the person telling the players where to stand? They literally had a half-time. They had 45 minutes discussing it. It's Pep Guardiola. He's a great manager, but if you think that's a mistake, then you think Pep made a mistake. Not Gvardiol, not Foden, not Kovacic. The manager did that. The manager. Convo was... Sorry, I don't know what that's in reference to, Killian. Liverpool's the main rival to City, says Hamad Bold. Will Paul Pogba have final dance? Paul Pogba is washed and finished, man. I didn't slander Ortega. Hello? What? When did that happen? What's going on? If we don't win tomorrow, it'll be no wins in the last 3. Are we going to say City in crisis? Too early, AI Joy, but it won't be ideal, would it? Has Pep ever had so many young players to bring on experience-wise in a squad before? Probably not, I feel like. I'd have to go back, but certainly not at Bayern. Certainly not. This is Jason's 35. So that's me. That's me right now. I'm 35, 35, 30. That's a thing. This is not true. This is not true, guys. Foden created an expected assist of over 3 for Haaland last season alone. It's not true. It's not true. The Newcastle game alone, Haaland could have had a hat-trick. Arguably. Edison has a free roll. Yeah, Fez. Foden's more of a scoring 10. He does create chances. But now, maybe there's an argument for he's more of a scoring 10 than a creative 10. But that is not the same as he is a scoring 10 he can't create. In the same way that someone who's more of a creative 10 isn't a scoring one. For example, let's take Kevin De Bruyne. Is Kevin De Bruyne more of a passer or a goal scorer? Now, I think we'd all say he's more of a passer. Does that mean his goal scoring is shit? No. It's actually very, 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 very impressive and very good. And this is the distinction that needs to be made. There's nothing wrong with Foden being more of a goal-scoring 10, but for then those people to go the other way and say, well, he's a goal-scoring 10, he's therefore not a playmaker, he's not a creator, is bollocks, based on stats, based on eyes. The data does not support these people. Does not support these people. At all. No one can replace Rodri, indeed. Indeed. Do you think we could convert Gvardio to a DM? No, I don't think so, John. Very different situation. 360 is very hard for a central player. When do you reckon Arsenal bottle league? Oh dear. I genuinely think City fans only make Liverpool out to be main rivals because they know their fan base is passive and limp. Since being shit for a season, full win the league, they're not arsed. I'd rather Arsenal win the league than Liverpool. Definitely. Definitely. Liverpool haven't faced anyone good in the league yet. Maybe. Maybe. Foden's overrated by me. Okay, interesting. I mean, what I say about Foden is he was the best player in the league last season, and the data, the eyes, the accolades do support that. So I don't know if that's technically true, but here we go. He doesn't have as many skills in his locker. He's only taken a big step as a scorer. See, this is wrong, Steve. This is just you may as well have spoken at me in Japanese. You may as well have spoken at me in Japanese because that's just so not true. So not true. 0.9 XG out of 3 was that chance against United. What? That's not, I don't think you, that's not how expected assists work, Samir. Can you give me a 10 who is more of a goal scorer than a creator? I'm struggling to remember one. I don't know, to be honest. In general, the 10 role is associated with that, isn't it? But it's not necessarily a bad thing, is it? It's fine. I like the fact that there's a goal threat there. 6, 7 assists, no comps for attack midfielders all bad. It isn't exactly De Bruyne numbers, but no one's De Bruyne numbers, and that's the thing. And this is why it's also odd when people say, "Oh, Haaland gets less service when Foden's on the pitch compared to De Bruyne." Oh, thank you for that, Einstein. And literally any midfielder in the world would be the exact same thing because Kevin De Bruyne is the best passer in the world. Frank Lampard's a good point, to be fair. What are we doing here? I'm so sorry that Foden's not as good at passing as the best passer in the world. Oh no. Whatever will I do with that information? I'd rather Chelsea. Well, yeah, me too, LB, of course. But Chelsea aren't going to win the league. Let's be honest. Chelsea aren't going to win the league. Because Chelsea, it all comes down to rivalries. Like, City don't have a rivalry with Chelsea because there's no history of Chelsea and City having a rivalry. There's been a season where City and Chelsea finished first and second in the Premier League, and even then, that title was done by, like, February, I think. It was close up until, like, December, and then thereafter, City just fell off a cliff and Chelsea won it at a canter. It wasn't even a title race, in my opinion, by the end of it. It wasn't a true title race. So City have got no reason to dislike Chelsea, and I assume vice versa. There's obviously a rivalry with Liverpool, and there has become one with Arsenal. But, again, this is all... Lots of people are forgetting how bad it was in those Liverpool years in terms of that rivalry. And this Arsenal one, which is blossoming into one, has not yet matched that level of animosity or indeed accolades. So for me, I'd rather Arsenal win than Liverpool based on that. Based on that. And to be fair, that's what you need against low blocks. The fans are Liverpool in terms of being annoying. But that's only because they're good right now. Don't forget, never forget, every fan base is insufferable when they're good. Every fan base is insufferable. When Liverpool were good, they had best in class in every single position. Don't forget what they told us. That they had the best goalkeeper, and the best left back, and the best centre back, and the best right back, and the best defensive midfielder, and the best left winger, and the best central forward, and the best right winger in the world. And they had the best manager. Best in class everywhere. Lest we forget. Lest we forget. Bob coming back will hopefully be lovely, yeah. Thank you, Danilo, for that. Really appreciate it, matey. Really appreciate it. Shy would? Why would Pep discourage Haaland from giving... Why would Pep discourage Haaland getting through balls? I'd imagine he would encourage him. I'd imagine that as well, IDK. But you tell me, why did he have a go at Foden when he did it and did it successfully? You tell me. You tell me. You'd have to. That's a conversation you have to. That's a conversation you have to have with Pep. It happened. I saw it with my eyes. I still have wet dreams from that Malam preseason game. What happened in that game? We'd like you to fight more for our players on rival channels. Holland scored 11 goals and they pretend Foden doesn't exist. Wait, what? I'm always defending our players, I feel like. Hello? Hello? I don't know if I agree with that. I did say that, probably because I was talking about Roger, and that's, or Gundogan. Yeah, big up IDK, big up. I don't think a 10 can be a goal scorer before a creator. That could happen with an 8. Well, here's the interesting thing, Spartacus. I actually, if you had to be so specific with me and say, what is, in your opinion, the absolute ceiling of, let's assume the stars align, etc., etc. Let's even say that the team is built around him. Let's go to the absolute extreme lengths of the universe. What is the absolute ceiling of Foden? And in my opinion, it is as an 8. It is as a player who is more involved in every single phase of the game. It's only happened a couple of times, but every time he drops deep, he is wonderful. He had a slightly deeper role against Bratislava, as we discussed, and it's fantastic. I actually think Foden's wasted at 10. I think that he's got all those elements of his game, certainly on ball. The question will always be off ball work, but in respect of pressing, he's already got it on lock. I think in terms of awareness, that is definitely an area that could improve, but that will come in with time in the role. He's never going to be, a Fernandinho level of tackler, but I definitely think that should be his long-term position, in my view. So I actually do agree with you that I actually think that he is an 8. I think that's a ceiling. That would be lovely, Bendiv, absolutely. Arsenal City will never reach that City 2-1. That was literally, they were the 2 best teams in the world. Undisputed. Undisputed 2 best teams in the world. And that was a mental game. Absolutely insane. Bob was 0-9 Messi in that game. Regards to form, Arsenal fans are world class in being insufferable. I don't remember Liverpool fans captioning pics of their players with aura. We saw De Bruyne play alongside David Silva and Fernandinho. We can recreate that with. So I love that as a theory. But the only main reason that works is because of Fernandinho. Now, there is still a world where that could happen because you would basically just have to sacrifice. No, not quite. It could take. I would actually argue that Phil Foden now is a better off-ball player than David Silva ever was. So I would actually say it probably could work. It would obviously work better with Rodri in there, but I would love to see an off-ball structure this season against a lesser team where it's, Gundo in the 6 and then Foden and De Bruyne are ahead. Doesn't mean that Gundo's isolated. It's technically a midfield 3 rather than the 2, so it's actually more bodies in there. I would love to see that as an experiment. I think it could work, definitely. Wouldn't be ideal because there's no Rodri and Gundo doesn't have the legs and blah, 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 blah. But I think it could absolutely work. And if it did fail, the reason why it would fail wouldn't be because of Phil Foden being in there. I don't think. Because again, he's actually quite good off ball. I'd actually like to see it a lot. So, yeah, and I guess that is the issue when you are so versatile. I think, for me, again, if we're being so specific, it is as an 8, preferably in that left central midfield area. I actually disagree with people saying it's right central midfield. I understand if you have him on the right, then he can get the shots off better, that's fine. But as I outlined before, I don't even think that's Foden's 3rd best trait. I think he's a far better player on that left side. And his passing is far better, and his creation and playmaking in general is just far better, and he links up so much better with, like, you know, Grealish and Gvardiol on that left side. Do I think he will ever do it? Not for his ability. Do I think he will? No. I did think he would. I did not think it would take Pep this long to play him in midfield. I've still got big question marks on what Pep is doing. I think that if you built the team around Foden, it never will happen whilst Pep is here. I think if you did do that, it probably would happen. I think he's got the ability to do it, 100%. I think he showed last season. If he had that season, like this season, and the season after that, I think it would be a no-brainer. But I just don't know if that will happen. Because rightly, you know, Pep's first thought isn't, I need to make the most out of Foden. It's, I need to make the team the best. And that's reasonable. And that is totally, totally reasonable. Can we try to get up to 100 likes, please, lads? Get it up here. Get it up here. We've still got over 100 people watching, which is lovely. It is lovely, lovely. Es un momento, por favor. There we go. Yeah, when he plays deep, it's brilliant. I like that comparison. I like that a lot. Yes, that would be his ceiling for me. I think that would be his best thing. I'll take him being as an attacking midfielder, as a 10, whatever word you want to use. But I truly think that Foden is fundamentally an 8. I think that is his. That's where his best attributes are utilized. It's just a shame that we've never really seen it that often. We saw it. Last game of the season against West Ham, who was the best player on the pitch that day. And we saw it at the Bernabeu. No, not the Bernabeu. Against Real Madrid at the Etihad. That's the other time we saw it. And then against RB Leipzig, I believe. Outside of them, we have hardly seen it. And it's a shame, because how is he supposed to develop off-ball, etc., unless that happens? There's one in Manchester, Akash, yes, and there's also one in Birmingham. So yes, it's gorgeous. Arsenal fans will start comparing Nwaneri. No, Jason, that's already happened. That's already happened. Apparently, for some people, Nwaneri is already better than Foden. Reactivism. This is the philosophy these people follow. And this is the war on reactivism. Yes. I heard some City fans saying Grealish can play in midfield. He definitely can. He definitely can, and has for England, and did for Villa, and has very, very, very occasionally for City. And in fairness, for Grealish, that's probably his ceiling as well. Muster says he wants to see him in the 10. We can run it back to those days and bring Fernandinho back. He's still playing for you, do for the vibes, yeah. Yeah, and this is why for me, it's borderline moronic when people say, oh, why don't these players disobey the manager? Lads, please be serious. Please be serious. How long is a player going to survive if they disobey in a Guardiola team? They're not going to. That's the answer. Okay, Zubimendi tactical review. Here we go. He's just the worst Rodri. Boom. Sorted. Smashed it. When would LB make a debut on your channel? He's dying to get on. I don't think he cares, Jason, to be honest. I don't think he cares. It's just a bit tricky because I use a different streaming software to everyone else, so it's a little bit tricky. I guess I do it with Gasky, but I guess we could do it. I don't know, because I'm lazy in terms of getting people on. That's why, lads. I've got nothing against people. I like to talk. Yeah, me. This show's about me. You know what's that mad stat? And this is why the Ballon d'Or's a load of bollocks. What is that mad stat about, like, either Messi or a Real Madrid player has won the Ballon d'Or exclusively since 2009? It's just insane. It's just the definition of PR. It just is. Maybe it was once, and it was once something to be valued, but it's just stupid. You know, there's no way you can convince me that every single year from 2009, either a player from Barcelona or Real Madrid had the best season in the world. I can't be convinced of that. You can't convince me that's the thing. Just stupid. Just mental. Insanity. Insane. Will it cook? Oh, Foden, Grealish, Kovacic. No, I don't think that would cook, personally. I think it could cook on ball. It's delicious. It's becoming, and maybe is my favorite restaurant now. Do we continue to see Rico in the lineup every match? Feels like he can become an elite player with his current ability. I think so. I think so. Especially if we're talking about Walker or Rico. I know who I'm picking every single time. It is. It really is. Their fans, again, based on online, etc., they dislike us quite a lot. They were up in arms at the concept of Rodri winning the Ballon d'Or, for example, over their beloved Vinicius. It was very impressive. So I think it is a thing. And also maybe lots of teams can't claim this. You know, to have played... I don't know how many times we've played Real Madrid, but it's at least 8. We've got a better record than them. Now, I don't know how many teams can say that they've come up against Real Madrid that many times and have a superior head-to-head record. It's at least 8 times, isn't it? Because we played them in the 12-13 season. We played them in the in the 19-20 season, the season before COVID. And we played them in the year before the treble. And then we played them the treble. And we played them this. So we must have played them 10 times then. If my calculations are correct, I think we've come up against them 5 times in the Champions League. We obviously never played them in European Cup days. So we've played them 10 times, and we have a better record head-to-head. I don't know how many teams have come up against Real Madrid at least 10 times and have a better record. Or at least 5 times and have a better record. It can't be that many. Surely. Surely not. Certainly in the Champions League anyway. That's mad. I wonder what Bayern's record is. Can someone find out what... Because Musti says here it's like Real Bayern in the 2010s. Yeah. What's Bayern Munich's record against Real Madrid? I'd be surprised if it's better. It might be, in fairness. Maybe I'm setting myself up for failure here, but... I'm sure he is, lovely Toby, but these people, literally, it was pre-season, I think, or maybe like the first game of the season, and these people were saying he's better than Foden. Hello? What's going on? And this is the Reactivism school of thought. What do you think of Grealish partnering with Foden in attack midfield? I think it could be, again, on ball, I think it could be really fun and interesting. Maybe... Guys, brain blast. False winger role. Gvardiol, left wing. Grealish tucking in. So Grealish starting from the left, tucking in to left central midfield. Not my ideal position for Foden, but it could work. Foden there, right central midfield. And then, like, you know, Gundo Stones behind. No, but then then where would that defender go? That wouldn't work. If only Nunes was good on the ball, man, then it would work. If Rodri was available, that would work. Probably. Rodri and someone. That could work. The La Liga door. Big up to Kenya. Top text. Big up to Kenya. Much love, much love. Can you live watch along with Ten Hag sacking? It's high time for Phone step up. He did it last season, though, Sean. He's already done it. He did it last season. And that was also on the thumbnail. So Foden last season stepped up, guys. Let's assume, for argument's sake, he's going to have, you know, a similar-ish season. Who else is going to step up in Rodri's absence? Is it going to be an attacker who's going to, you know, make it so we outscore the opposition? Is it going to be a midfielder to step in for Rodri? Is it going to be a defender who just locks down an opposition attacks to make the midfield issue less of an issue? Who, in your view, lads, is going to step up? So Foden did it last year, so he's already done it. Who's going to step up? Haaland obviously doesn't need to step up. De Bruyne doesn't need to step up. These are established players, etc. Bob, that's a great answer, Musty. That's a great answer. Savio, oh, what a fun answer. Yes, I like that. Our record versus Bayern is also crazy good. So we played Bayern in the 11-12. We played Bayern so much, didn't we? I think we played them 13-14. I know our record against Barcelona is not good. Played them then. And then we played them... How we played? We played Bayern in the treble winning year. That's at least 6, isn't it? I don't know how many times we played Bayern, though. It's at least 6, though. I feel like they've got a better record than us, though. Yeah, well, they're mental, IDK, aren't they? They are mental. Is reactivism a new footballing philosophy? So, it's a term I've coined. And essentially, I recommend go back and watch this. It's been a very fun stream, very informative in my humble opinion. This is basically people who are reactive. It's a new word. It doesn't exist. I've coined it. Basically, the school of thought of being reactive to something. So, no time at all. Oh, you're the best in the world. You're the worst in the world. You're washed, etc. It's reacting. It's a school of thought where you're reacting to stuff far too quickly without a large enough sample size. So Real Madrid have a better record against Bayern. We've got... So there you go. We've got... So even Bayern doesn't have a better record against Real Madrid. Mad. I don't agree. I don't agree. Towards the end of last season, our best football was when both of them were in the team. Specifically, both in midfield. I don't agree with that. I'd say that one of Foden's best games last season actually was, you know, let's say the, was it Brentford? Brentford? De Bruyne started that day, if memory serves. Aston Villa, that was another brilliant game from him. One of my favourites. De Bruyne was there. West Ham. De Bruyne was there. I don't think I agree. Who'll be the goal scorers tomorrow? Let's predict a clean sheet. Yeah? And let's go for 2-0. 2-0. Let's be comfy. Let's say Haaland gets a goal and Savio gets his first City goal. That's what we'll go for. So you guys think Bob will step up, Savio, Nunes, Stones, Gundo, Stones. Stones needs to have a good year. We've discussed this. He needs to have a good year for his sake and for his City career. I was in the stadium for that day. I don't care they were down to 10 men. They can hold that, honestly. That was so beautiful. Such a good day. Nunes is good on the ball. Not when comparing him to Rodri and Gundogan or Foden. And these are high standards. But it's mainly the first touch. It's not quite there for me. I remember Milner scoring that goal at the Allianz to complete the 3-2 comeback. Silva played amazing. Was that when Kolarov scored a penalty? I think. If anyone plays in midfield and needs to improve defensively, the defense sucks. And this is what I was saying before, but he can't improve unless he's played there. Yeah, Mo does do this. I've accused Mo of doing this, and I said it on today's Rational League. I said, this is insane. You're talking about... You're confusing form with the quality of a player. Do you believe in XG? Well, the thing is, Ryan, that the model of XG is it's used on an average player. So it's obviously got to be taken in context. So, for example, if a player has a certain shot in their arsenal, let's say, what's like a trademark shot? We're talking about Foden, aren't we? So let's say that trademark shot where it's on the edge of the box, Foden from the right side of the box, and he shoots with his left. Now, for most players, that might only be an XG of like 0.05. But for a player of Foden's quality, just by virtue of the player taking it, then it might be more like an XG of 0.3 or 0.25 or something. But XG isn't clever enough to account for individual players because that would be like an impossible model to try and extrapolate. But in general, it's a very good, because it's about averages. And this is why it's good to, so for example, if a player outperforms their XG, that means they're outperforming the average. That means they're better. I can't believe the one where Vidal got sent off in particular. Madness. Madness. Yeah, absolutely. Let's go for a clean sheet. Let's cope. Yeah, they were questionable. It was insane. There's some games where Bayern were clearly the better team. It was unreal. Can Foden and De Bruyne play together without sacrificing a wide player? In my opinion, yes. Yes. I've discussed this. 3-2 build-up. You'd have to drop Rico Lewis. 3-2 build-up. 3 centre-halves. Gvardiol, Diaz, Akanji. Front two, treble winning system. Gundo Stones, that covers for the issue of having Gundogan in midfield from a physicality perspective, because you've got John Stones there. Boom. Front five, you can easily fit Foden and Haaland in there. Foden and De Bruyne in there, sorry. You would probably need to, I would err on the side of not starting Doku in that scenario and starting Grealish. But based on the start of this season, I don't think anyone would have an issue with that. Could definitely work. Stones, yeah. Again, big up John Stones. Love him. That's my boy. Yeah, Kolarov penalty. Kolarov, absolute boy, by the way. Very different players, TJ. Very different players. I do like McAtee a lot, though. Let me dream, Dave. Let me dream. 1-4, drawn 4, lost 4 against Madrid. I don't think that is correct. If you're a City fan, anyway, I'm very confident we have a better record against Real Madrid. I'm going to check now. Man City record versus Real Madrid. Because I think I think UEFA has an official thing. Yes. 4 wins, 5 draws, 3 losses. That's City. So City have a superior head-to-head record. City scored 21 goals, Real Madrid 18. So, respect of those individual encounters, City have won most of them. Or the majority, rather, not most. Is most anything over 50%? Or is there like another thing? Either way. It's funny because Pep was the Bayern manager. I'm pretty sure in that match, I think you're right, Akash. Yes. I think we regret selling Palmer. We've touched on this before. No, because there's a big difference between the player Palmer is now, the player he would have been allowed to become, etc., etc. There's all that context given it. It's not as simple as just pick out player, pop him in. If it was, then sure, but it isn't, so no. Big up to you, Louise, as always. Leave a like on the video, guys. Leave a like on the video. How many likes do we have? Do we have my magic 100? If we don't, I'll be upset. Lads. Not good enough. Come on, it's still 78 or whatever. Oh, never mind. It's 96. It's gone up. Can we get to 115 for the memes? Come on now. Come on now. Get it up, yeah. Yes, Spartacus, yes. In an individual game, it's not normally helpful. Totally right. Over a career, over a season, it is helpful. Very good summation. I don't think right now he's not a City player. He's done. He's done. Yeah, that one was mad. I remember watching that with my mum, and I didn't care who won between Bayern or Real Madrid. I didn't really care. But I wanted the team who deserved to win, and it was. I'm pretty sure that was the same game where Vidal got sent off, and it was mental. I just got so annoyed. Like, this is ridiculous, man. I didn't care either way. I just wanted a fair game. Ainori was like a name who was suggested. Yeah, 100%. Was watching an old City match, so much dynamism and crisp ball movement. Now City are sluggish. But we weren't at the start of the season. We weren't the first 5 games in, I would say. Before the first international break, I thought we were really nice. McAtee's potential. I have no idea, Jason. I have no idea. I'm not going to say that McAtee will make it at City. I can't conclude that. I think he's definitely a Premier League player. 100%. 100%. Is he good enough to start for City week in, week out? Or will he ever be good enough? That's another question. But certainly in terms of being a Premier League quality player, yeah, definitely. At least like a team who are like in our European competition. 100%. 100%. That's definitely a thing. We're nearly at 115 likes, guys, which is wonderful. 5 more for the meme. Come on, lads. Come on. And lasses. So, apologies. We've got some ladies here as well. Apologies. Because I know Louise is here. I know she's a lady. Is Louise the only lady watching? Do I have any other female? I know most of my viewers are male. Do we have any other ladies watching? Let me know in the chat. You don't have to if you don't want to. If you don't feel comfortable doing that. But do let me know. Is there anything else that we would like to discuss today, chaps? I feel like we've talked very well about the reactive discussion and the movement of reactivism. And us, as reasonable people, as rational individuals, we're going to push back against it, yes? So whenever you see people, you know, let's say, for example, from now, for like the next, I don't know, 5 to 10 games, that, I don't know, Nicholas Jackson scores in every single game, right? We're not going to say that he's better than Haaland, right? We're not going to do this. We're not going to do reactivism, yeah? We're all good. We're all good over here on the LNobbins channel. We're all chilling. Yeah, so as I say, we've discussed reactivism. The Fulham game we can briefly talk about. Well, yeah, let's touch on that now, because we haven't really talked about that. What's the main story going to be from the Fulham game? So, Fulham are probably not going to give us a disgusting low block, but at the same time, they're not going to be overly expansive like a Brighton, for example. I think it would be a good game. I don't think it's going to be easy by any means. That's why I've only predicted us to score twice. It's not going to be a battering. I'd be very surprised if that was the case. Kevin De Bruyne is still not going to be available, so that means that Foden must start if possible. Hopefully he's over these personal issues that he was experiencing. If he doesn't start, then there's a massive issue. A massive issue. Because we all saw what the midfield looks like against Newcastle. Savio must start. He simply must. My team would be... What would my team be? When's the international break? Can we go full strength, or do we have to think about rotation? I'm just going to have a look at the fixtures and such. Man City fixtures. What do we have coming up? When is the international break? Fulham, Wolves, Sparta. Is that Sparta Prague? Southampton, League Cup. Bournemouth. Wait. Oh, no, wait. Yeah. Sorry, the international break is after this game. Okay, so it's immediate. It's good. So we can go balls to the wall. We can go full strength. Okay, so I would do basically the same team that we played against Chelsea first game of the season. So Ederson, of course, Rico, Gvardiol, Diaz, one of Stones or Akanji. I don't mind. If Stones is fully fit, I'd like to see Stones starting, because I do think he's going to be very important this season. Even though I think Akanji's been brilliant, I'd like to see Stones starting if possible. If not, Akanji. And then I'd want to see Grealish, Savio, Gundogan, Foden, Haaland, and who do I want as my final midfielder? Do we give Núñez a Premier League game? Question mark. I thought he actually played okay against Bratislava. I actually thought he played well. Do you reward him with a start? Yes, you do. Yes, you do. That would be my team. Maybe it'll be a mistake. And Nobbins, Bernardo Silva's not in the team. Yeah, I don't care. If you don't have Núñez in, have Bernardo in there. That's fine. But Savio has got to play on the right. He simply must. He simply must. I can't have another Bernardo Silva right wing session in late 2024. It simply can't happen. No. Start him against Wolves. One of Pit. It doesn't really matter. That final slot, I don't care. Bernardo, Kovacic, Núñez, whoever. It doesn't really matter. As long as the other players are there, I think that's a very good team. Hope Doyle. So, what position is Doyle? Is he a centre-back? Is he a full-back? What is he? Let me know, guys. You are not a female, Musty. Don't lie to me. I love that answer, Elder. Ivana is a female name. Okay. You're a female, big up to you, Harmer. Thoughts on the colour of my shirt? It's lovely. Ibrahim is a female. I thought Ibrahim was a male name, though. Jules, a lady in Seattle, big up to you. What's the nickname for Seattle? Like, you know, the Windy City is New York or whatever. What's Seattle? With your spike thingy. You know what I mean? Ryan, I don't think... Ryan? Right, okay, guys, what's going on here? 1-0 down at half. Oh, Elder, why would you say that? Why would you say that? Oh my god, Spartacus, yeah. I'm scared that Adama might physically hurt Gvardiol. Here's the thing, guys. Here's the thing about Adama. Now, he played very well against us 4 years ago. When was the last time Adama Traore had a good game against City? Was it the 2020 season when we obviously didn't win the title? And I know he did Mendy in those games, and that's fine. Has he ever had a good game against us ever since? I feel like I'm always worried about him because I'm scarred, but then it's like, he didn't really do anything, you know? Who's in the De Bruyne role? Maybe you don't even do that, though, Musty. That's the thing. Maybe you don't even do that. Maybe you can't do that. Maybe you play a different way. I'd go Gundo. I think we've got to get used to Gundogan being the 6. He's got to be the 6. He's a left center. Is he left-footed? Is he left-footed? That's interesting. If he's left-footed, I'm interested. He's old school. He's probably not going to make it at City if he's old school. He needs to be good on the ball. You're a woman. Big up to you, Ivana. We made a 1-5. Big up to you, Louise. Thank you. It's the Emerald City. That's a cool name. I just mean in terms of starting 11, Musty, not necessarily thing. It might be a 2-2-6. I meant specifically in terms of personnel. Washington State is pretty, says Desi. I've never been. I've been to the United States once, and that was to Flow Rider. And technically, like, some territories, because we also went on a cruise to some islands, which I think were technically American. Sorry, USian, not American. Because America is also South America. I don't know, AI. I don't know. He had 2 good games. Yeah, exactly, Spartacus. Exactly. The rainy city. It rains a lot. Not unlike Manchester, yeah. Made it 1-5. Yeah, big up, guys. Thank you, guys, for those likes. Does this mean Kojic failed as a 6? No, he started the season well there. But in terms of who is going to be City's best 6 across the course of this season, it's got to be Gundogan. It's got to be Gundogan. He's better on the ball. He's just better in those earlier phases. He's a better player generally. He's a better playmaker in that respect. I like Kovacic, of course I do, but I don't think that he starts in my favourite team, to be honest. If I'm being honest, and I think I am. I'm personally choosing Gundogan. Doesn't mean that Kovacic is a bad option. And you could start both of them in a very conservative setup, but there's not a lot of legs in that midfield, is all I'd say. This is why I really would like it if Nunes did well. I really would like it if he did well. I don't know. Disneyland's there, I guess, Havana. And it's good weather, maybe? Maybe that's what it is. This stream's a lot longer than I thought it was going to be, by the way. I thought I was only going to be here for an hour, but we've somehow, thanks to you guys, we've somehow had a lot to talk about. So thank you guys for making this an interesting show, as always. Worst city in the UK, London. I hate London. I've never been to every single city, obviously. You know, I'm not a weirdo. I hate London with a passion. I worked there very, very briefly back in the day. Hate it. The commute is hell. Oh my God. Everyone is so rude there. It's so expensive. Forget trying to live there. I don't like London. Sorry if you're from London. I hate it. But I don't like cities in general. And London is like city squared. I don't like Manchester, by the way, as a city. Just saying that. But I don't like cities. Unless it's York. Which isn't really a city. I do waffle a lot. In my defense, it is literally my job to speak. I will say that much. In my defense. If we're defending myself, I think I am. I say that a lot, don't I? Left-footed and good on the ball. Okay, yeah, sign me up. Sign me up for Doyle. Sign me up. I love a left-footed centre-back. Stones is a central centre-back. If you're doing that, Spartacus, then Diaz can't get in the team. Because Diaz's only position on ball can be central centre-back. I don't want him out wide trying to defend channels. He'll get exposed. He'll get exposed. Phone's a must, yeah, definitely. Definitely. Can work. He can, again, I'm just thinking about physicality. When are you going to transition to feet pics and selling bathwater? Great question. When we get to at least like 300 viewers on average, I reckon we can contemplate that as a notion. Until then, maybe not. Well, this 11. Edison, Gvardiol, Kanji, Ruben, reconverting, Kova as a 6, Savio, Doku, Grealish, attacker midfielder. You are a bold man. You are a bold man. So your off-ball structure is, I'm assuming 4-1-4-1, Cover, Grealish, Foden. Not saying it can't work, but it's very bold. That's all I will say. York is beautiful, Jules, would recommend. And literally magical because there's a Harry Potter shop there as well. Musty, why do you hate me so much? Don't see a Gavardio at centre-back ever. I do. But Gavardio, and this was brilliantly described by someone I follow on Twitter. I forget. I'm so sorry, I can't recall. He basically said something like, to be fair, we've discussed this before, and this is when, calling out Judge Mo again. Last season, when Gavardio was popping off and was playing his new role, Mo tried to use that as a bad thing against Gavardio. It's like, well, why is he playing at centre-back? He's obviously not good there. It's like, no, the point is, he is so good that he can do everything else. It's almost like a waste to limit Gavardio to only at centre-back. He could definitely do it there, because that's his position, but he's so good everywhere on the pitch, it makes sense to utilise him in so many other ways. IMO it is. I think it's soul-destroying. And I hated it. I hate London. Hate it. The people there, empty as well. Ugh. That's my view, though. You don't have to agree. If you like London, that's fine. I hate London. That's okay. Edison is better than Ortega. Let's chill on that. Let's chill. Elder, if you pay me enough money, I'll do it. If you pay me enough money, I'll do it. But, I ain't doing that shit for free. Say that. Washington State and Oregon, yeah, never been to either of those. I would like to go to Minnesota. I'd like to go to Minnesota. So I can go watch my basketball team. My mum was actually talking about that. She was saying, for her future birthday, would you... Because when it was my sister's birthday a few years ago, my mum took her to New York as a treat thing. So she was like, we could do a similar thing. We could go to America. We could go to the US. And you can go watch your basketball team. So that might be fun. Also, Minnesota borders Canada, doesn't it? So that might be fun. I missed the North. Yeah, big up the North. Big it up, big it up. Gavardio falls. I reckon he could do it. I reckon he could definitely do it. I don't see the Rodri role or the 6 role because of what we discussed earlier. RE360 vision. RE that. Mo is a fraudulent fraud, absolutely. But hey, I keep going on his channel, so I must like him or something. I don't know. I think Pep should give up being defensively solid with Rodri out. To be fair, this is what I've said, IDK, and this is why I'm totally happy with the notion of doing that. If he's happy with a midfield 3 of Kovacic, De Bruyne, and... Oh, what was it? Who played against Chelsea, guys, in the midfield? Who was it? It wasn't Rodri. Kova, De Bruyne, who was ahead of him? It wasn't Nunes, was it? Was it? No, Lewis didn't play off ball. Bernardo. It must have been Bernardo. If he's happy playing a midfield 3 of Kovacic, Bernardo, De Bruyne, you can't convince me he wouldn't be happy playing Foden, De Bruyne, and Gundogan, or even Kovacic. I don't think I can be convinced of that. Against Chelsea, of all teams, as well. I don't think Mo's got a City agenda. Well, Mo, to be fair, doesn't like City in the fact that Judge Mo, he's been called out a lot here, isn't he? Doesn't like... No, what Mo likes is different. And I can understand where he's coming from, because if I was a neutral fan, you know, I can use the example. I was buzzing when Leverkusen won the league last year because Bayern won it 10 in a row. It was like, you know, when Inter won it, when to disrupt Juve's dominance, and when Lille won it to disrupt, you know, PSG's dominance, or even Monaco. It's just variety is nice. So if you're enjoying the Premier League, but it's the same team winning it for the past however many years in a row, I can understand totally why you'd want another team to not win it. I'd be the exact same. If I was like a championship fan, I'd be like, Can City not win it for once, just for some variety? I'd be like that. I'd be like that as well, to be fair. Yeah, it's just so expensive, isn't it, Sangamesh? It's so expensive. Since you're a cat dad, do you hate the T-Wolves trading cat away? That's a... I was trying to figure out the pun there, and yeah, that's a really good pun. Yes, I'm very upset. Carl Anthony Towns. Hopefully it unlocks Anthony Edwards, but I'm very upset. It's just a pure 9. Again, I reckon you could do it. Hey, Spartacus, that's one of the great questions of life. A fraudulent fraud, yeah. Maybe that is the contradiction there. I've not Ibrahim, no. And again, once again, guys, this is a centre-back we're talking about. I know he's not played centre-back at City, really. I mean, off-ball he mainly does, but it is mental. Once this is like with Savio. I knew we were getting a good player. I didn't think it was going to be this good, this quickly. I think Gvardiol could like get to Van Dijk levels in terms of overallness. I think he will be that good, and he's only a baby. Despite the beard, he's only a baby. We did beat his team in the Chelsea. Maybe there's that. Maybe there's that as well. I do enjoy I keep forgetting how Lies. Is that how you pronounce his first name? I do like a lot of what he says. I think he's very smart. I think he's very well spoken, very careful in how he speaks in a good way. I basically agree with everything he says. There is one thing though, which is a massive disagreement I have with him. And he has, in my view, Lias. Thank you, Nana. Lias. Again, very, very good creator. Much better than I. Again, I agree with a lot of what he says. But the one thing that I definitely disagree with on him is he's gone on record a number of times saying that... Excuse me, just dropped my remote. He didn't say that. That was me saying that. His view is that you can't be the best player in the world if all you do is score goals. Essentially, he was saying that Haaland can't ever be considered the best player in the world. Ever. Doesn't matter what he does. Doesn't matter if he scores 100 plus goals in a season. He can never consider him to be the best player in the world. Now, I personally think that is an incredibly flawed thing to say. I don't think it's very rational. I don't think it's it's not really associative of critical thinking, because if Haaland, we can all agree, hopefully, that Haaland was the best player in the world in the treble-winning year. Now, what if he had that year the following year? And what if he had that year the year after? And the year after? And the year after? At what point are you just going to ignore it? If he's outperforming everyone year on year on year on year, then surely you have to conclude that he's the best player in the world. That's surely the yardstick that we're using here. And there was another one. I think that maybe there was a lot of pushback when he said that, from me included. And that led to a very weird reaction when Haaland went off against Real Madrid. And he did a very odd tweet. Again, I like the majority of what he says, but this tweet was very odd in my view. He was almost relishing in the fact that Haaland asked to go off at half-time of extra time. And he went off because he was injured. And it came out after that he was injured. So he had to go off. He kept saying, oh, the mentality, he should never have gone off. You know, the best player in the world will never go off, etc., etc., etc. It's like, but he had an injury. So surely it would have been worse to stay on, injured, and be a detriment to the team, and maybe be injured in taking a penalty. Surely it's the braver thing to say, guys, I have an injury. I think I'm going to be a detriment to the team. I want to stay on, but I can't. So that confused me as well. But apart from that, I agree with basically everything that he says. Liaz. I like him a lot. I didn't watch the game, Samir. Maybe I should do Real Madrid. Hot take. I don't know if it even is that hot. We said, I think a lot of us here said that, or no, rather, we questioned the Mbappe signing because we're like, well, they've got Vinicius to play on the left. Okay. And Bellingham loves to drift off to the left in midfield. Right. Okay. And they've also got Rodrigo, who's nominally a left winger. Right. So they sign Mbappe, who went on record at PSG saying, I don't want to play as a striker. I want more freedom. I want to actually be more of a creator. He wants to play on the left, or maybe even a 10. So now you've got Mbappe, and even when he plays centrally, he veers off to the left. It makes it surely, I haven't watched a lot of Real Madrid this season, but surely they are very easy to defend against, because all you've got to do is be defensively solid on your right, and they will just crowd each other out in the end, with Bellingham being there, and Vinicius being there, and Mbappe being there. It just doesn't seem to be a very good squad-building decision. It's a good decision in terms of the profile and the name, because it's Mbappe, blah, blah, blah. But given the fact that your best player anyway was Vinicius, and now you're adding Mbappe, whose also best position is Vinicius's, it just doesn't seem very optimal. Haaland would have been a far better signing for Real Madrid. He would have been, like, perfect for them, I think. Can you imagine, like, Vinicius and Haaland and Bellingham all in the same team? He probably would have looked sick as fuck in that Real Madrid kit as well. Yeah. I'm not saying it's a bad signing. It might turn out very well. But based on the current parameters of the squad, it seems like a very interesting signing. Let's say that. You heard about overrelying on Haaland for goals, says Megamind. Only if we are playing to his strengths and he doesn't score. That hasn't happened yet. Alternatively, then we've got other players who can step up and do it. So I think it's a thing. Mo's falling in love with Chelsea, Rose not. Yeah. And reactivism, Louise, reactivism. What was it that did someone say that Rory Jennings did a weird take on the overlap? Something about Michael Owen's better than Haaland at scoring goals or something? That's not true though, is it? Come on now. What's Bernardo's best position? In 2024, central midfield, Bendiv. Deeper. A deeper position. Yeah, I know, Ivana, I know. Crazy. Would I be upset if Bernardo left? Yeah, because I love Bernardo, but is it for the good of City's squad that Bernardo leaves and we sign someone else? Probably, yeah. I'd agree with him if the player's scoring reasonable amounts of goals. Yeah, and that's the thing. There has surely got to become a point where even if for a moment we ignore that Haaland is actually quite good at general play and link-up play, even if we just say, for argument's sake, all he can do is score, and that's all he contributes, if he's scoring 60-plus goals a season, then it's irrelevant. There comes a point where the amount of goals you score just outweighs, even if, like, off-ball, he's a passenger, he does nothing to press and support the team, there just comes a point where the goals outweigh anything else. In terms of being a net positive, and surely in terms of like being a better player as well. But the fact is he's not even doing just that. So yeah, you get me. I think he made the distinction of footballer and player. This is weird to me. A player is a footballer. I've never understood this distinction. A footballer is a player. If someone can explain to me the distinction, I think that we're playing a weird game of semantics here. I just think they are the same thing. A footballer is a player and a player is a footballer. To say, I don't know, what's... Extreme example, but some people said Alvarez is a better footballer than Haaland. Now, what does that mean? He's smaller than him, but Haaland's an infinitely better goal scorer. And has actually got better hold-up play and general play. I really struggle because I see that a lot. And I just don't think that is a reasonable... I don't think that's a reasonable thing to say. It's like when people say... We're having a lot of discussions about technicalities and definitions here, aren't we? Hopefully you guys aren't bored. It's like when people say, based on ability, or technically, or, you know, on technical play and technical ability. What does that mean? What does based on ability mean? Surely your ability is how you perform on the pitch. So when people say, the best example for me, the most insane example for me, was when Pogba was starting his United career and De Bruyne starting his City career. And even though De Bruyne was clearly outshining Pogba on the pitch, and clearly was better, people were saying, well, Pogba's got more ability. Right. So if he has more ability, why isn't he demonstrating that on the pitch? That would be my question. So for me, when people say ability, I sort of switch off. Because that doesn't mean anything. And this is it. This is, yes, Luba Barlow. I think what these people mean is he's pretty to watch. Or he's nice at dribbling. That sort of thing. He passes the eye test. He's very aesthetic. I love aesthetics. It's fun. But there comes a point where you can't use that for everything. Otherwise, we'd be saying, players like Adel Taarabt, best player in the world, because they're very fun and pretty to watch. Hatem Ben Arfa, very fun to watch. But it's no use without end products, and there's no use without output on the pitch. Technical ability, for me, is footballing ability, which is the ability to perform on a football pitch. For me, they are all the same thing. They're all the same traits. And there shouldn't be any weird distinctions or lines being drawn here. It's more to do with people having this weird idea in their head that this player... I believe in this player, and I believe this player should be better than they are, but they aren't performing to that level. Why? It's because there's untapped potential there. Well, I'm sorry, if you aren't illustrating it on the pitch, then that's your ceiling, to be honest. Your ceiling is whatever you put out on the football pitch. It's not a case of, they never reached their potential. Bar injury, I don't agree with that. If you didn't perform on the pitch, that was your potential, to be honest. Whether it was mentality or whatever. I saw that. That was really funny. That was really funny. Yeah, 3 left wingers, crazy. Madness. Vinny, Rodrigo, Bellingham, Mbappe floats into those left wing spaces. No player can consistently switch the play to a Valverde on the right. Yeah. Yeah, indeed, Jack. Real Madrid susceptible to a low block. Maybe we should just do that against them. Give them a taste of their own medicine. Absolute vibes. They've already dropped 6 points. Crazy. Savio or Kudus. I prefer Savio, but I haven't seen enough of him to make a full comparison. The whole argument is like Giannis is not good because he dunks everything. Yeah, good point. I like Giannis as well, by the way. I think he's very good. Footballer is usually on the ball skills. Player is the rest. Yeah, I don't agree with that distinction personally. Playing football, same thing. I agree. I agree. Yeah, this has been a lot longer than it was supposed to be, lads. And in fact, I think we will, because we have been live for over 2 hours, so I think we will wrap up here. Get your final thoughts and comments in, chaps, please. Thank you for joining me today. This has mainly just been a stream of trying to busting arbitrary arbitrary definitions which mean nothing and hold no weight or value. On his day is one of my least favorite things. On his day, he's the best midfielder in the world. On his day, he can do this. On his day, he can do that. If you have to say on his day, that means the player you are talking about isn't consistent and isn't good enough to not use that parameter. When have you ever heard anyone say... yeah, exactly, Spartacus, I agree with you. When have you ever heard anyone say, on his day, De Bruyne is the best midfielder in the world? No. No. You don't need to say that. You just say he is the best. It's like when people say prime. Prime Özil. Prime Özil was the best. Right, if you've got to have a fucking prefix of prime or peak on the name of any footballer, they were not as good as you wanted them to be. It's like when people say prime Pogba. Yeah. What about reality Pogba? Not 30th of February Pogba, which never fucking comes. That's another good one, yeah. When people use hypotheticals. But if he was doing this, but if he was doing that, and if the team was built around him, and right, well, how about the reality of the situation? If Klopp got to spend as much money as Guardiola, Right, but that's not the situation we're in. Let's have a look at what happened. If Harry Kane played for City, he'd do better than Aguero. Right, but did he? But did he? No, he didn't. If this player did that, right, but it didn't happen. So, why are you talking about it? And it's fun to talk about prime footballers, but if you've got to include that in an argument of why one player is better than another, yeah, prime R9 though, oh yeah. And it's nice to talk about it. Again, it's nice to talk about it in a fun discussion. It's like, oh, do you guys remember, prime Drogba, or peak Andy Cole, whatever. It's like a fun conversational thing. But if we're discussing, if we're trying to have a genuine, relatively intellectual conversation about which player was better, this or that, and if I hear the word prime anywhere, I'm not interested in the conversation. It's like when it's forcing people into conversations they don't deserve to be in. Pogba, I'm sorry I keep bringing it back into this discussion. Pogba is nowhere near Kevin De Bruyne in any facet of the game, Certainly not in respect of overall footballer and overall player. The only way that he's able to weasel his... I keep dropping that. He's only able to weasel his way into these conversations is with the prefix prime or the prefix on his day. And if you have to do that for your players, your favourite players, then chances are probably not as good as you think they are. You don't need to do that with Aguero, let's say. Now, interestingly, Aguero's peak wasn't actually that high relative to other strikers. For example, I'd say Luis Suarez had a better peak at Liverpool. You might even say Drogba had a better peak at Chelsea. You might disagree, but some people would say that. You might say Kane had a better peak at Spurs, etc., etc. But the great thing about Aguero, same thing with David Silva, that they, every single season was like minimum 7, 8 out of 10. Minimum. And they did that over 10 years. So you don't need to dick around with words like prime or peak and in this time span and on his day and da 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 da. No, we can just look at what happened. Yeah, we can just look at what happened. That's why you don't need to say prime Aguero or prime David Silva or prime Kevin De Bruyne. It's just, no, it's Kevin De Bruyne. It's Aguero. It's David Silva. It's short and sweet. It's simple. It's simple, simple, simple. Top for me, Ibrahim. He's now top. It was Gerrard. I'm of the view he's eclipsed him. I don't think there's many traits that Gerrard has over De Bruyne now. Defensive work, fine. Of course. And with that, direct defensive actions, fine. I'd say scoring from the head, yes. I think basically everything else I'm giving to Kevin, though. Certainly every single facet of playmaking, dribbling, shooting from distance, finishing, passing with the head, free kicks, delivery from set pieces. Yeah. Okay, I'll give penalties to Gerrard as well, I suppose. But yeah, I'm having Kevin. Villa Bayern didn't watch the game, mate. Might need to catch up on it. I did rate Embiid, and then he was a fraud, so you get me. Big up to you, Mad Hatter. How you doing? On his day, it's a dead giveaway that they are not. Yes, exactly. Why isn't this comment coming up? There we go. Of course, I try to read and interact with as many as we can. Of course. If Kane left Spurs for Bayern, he'd win trophies. Yeah, funny. One season wonders. 2014, 2015 players. Oh gosh, what season was that? Is that the season that Chelsea won with Mourinho? I can't remember who was in the league that year. The year before that was that. No, that was 12, wasn't it? Papi Cisse. Michu was the year after that. I can't recall. That's a great question. That's a great question. To be fair. Prime Pate. Yeah, these are the sorts of players where you got to put prime, where it's sort of like they were fun for a time and that was it. Is Kev top 3 Prem player? I think he's 2. I think he's number 2. Forget 3, he's 2. I think he's only behind Thierry Henry. I think he's the best midfielder in the world. I think he's ahead of every single goalkeeper and defender. And I think he's ahead of every forward outside of Henry, to be honest. We can go a step further than this. He's a football legend. We can take Premier League out of it. He's a football legend. Where would you rank Mahrez among Premier League wingers? Yeah, as I say, guys, get your final comments and thoughts in, because I'm wanting to wrap up relatively soon. I've been live for a long time here. Again, thank you so much to the super chats. If you guys want to go one step further and become a YouTube member, if you like the content, want to help support me, click the join button or click the link in the pinned comment if you're able to, of course. Yeah, where to rank Mahrez? I don't know. It's a great question. He's probably top 10, is he? Would you say top 10 winger? He's not top. I probably wouldn't have him top 5. I probably would have him top 10 though. I'd have to think about that, but it's, yeah, 100% top 15. Probably top 10. Probably not top 5. I like how Aura's a stat on his day. Yeah, well, if Reece James can never get on the pitch, would you consider doing a show with Tom Little? We did a show with Tom Ivana like ages ago. It's called Little Knob. Great name. Maybe I need to bring those back. I was live with Tom yesterday though on the Twitch. We played Chained together. It was really fun. I was a massive liability, but so was Tom as well sometimes. If you want Tom and Nobbins content, the Twitch is there, which is just LNobbins. Prime Adriano's better than R9. Best Kev replacement, there isn't one. We might have to look elsewhere, like to the wings. Best Prem keeper, it is, in my opinion, there are 2 correct answers. You could have Czech, or you could have Schmeichel. Peter, that is. I think both of those are fine things to say. I can't really agree on anyone else. Griezmann is a France national team legend, but Pogba was quite good for France. Pogba was very good in, 2018 in particular. He was very good. And that's lovely that he was very good for France. But a tournament or 2 tournaments does not a career make. If you're not good, if you have years of underperformance at a club level, then it's not good enough. Prime Arshavin, yeah, big up. Where can Foden realistically rank when he finishes his career? He'll never be as good as De Bruyne, I don't think. But that's fine, because again, I think De Bruyne is the best. I think he could get into sort of like, I think the ceiling is like Lampard area. I think. That's the absolute highest. So not the absolute top tier, which is, as I say, De Bruyne. But I think he could go in the one below that. Probably. That's the ceiling, I think. That is the ceiling. My choice is Schmeichel. It'll probably be up there by the end of his career, Spartacus. If we're talking about, modern day with ball playing, then he's obviously number 1, but... Would you rather consistently stat pad or be good on the eye test for 1 season? Do I win the same amount of things in both of them? Do I win the same amount of things in both of them? Is Salah a top 5 Premier League player? Oh my god. You're a Liverpool fan, by the way, just because you got Fenway, which is like the name of FSG in it. Salah a top 5 player. It's so hard because there's different players in different positions. Probably Prime Pantilimon. Oh dear. He probably is. I'm not having him over on Henry and De Bruyne. But I could have him as like, I think it's reasonable to say he's the best wide player in Premier League history. I think that's reasonable to say. In which case he probably would be top 5. Oh right, I thought it was like a play on Liverpool. Hello Sanjeev. We're just about to wrap up, I'm afraid, Sanjeev. Could Palmer be the De Bruyne successor? Maybe, because they do both like a pass. Maybe. The question though would become, would he ever be able to be that player? Probably not. He'd still be stunted in his development, almost definitely. He could definitely get, I think it's 13, was it 13 titles that Giggs had? 13 Premier Leagues, because he had every single United one, didn't he? He could do that. He genuinely could. He's definitely top 10, yeah. I don't know if it's top 5. Right, lads. This has been a great stream. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Really hope you enjoyed it. Hope you got some value from it. Remember, lads, we are fighting the war on reactivism. We are not going to give into that silly thing. We are going to not conclude that Foden can't pass a ball because we know that is not. We know that's incorrect. We're not going to conclude that a player should be regarded as the best player in the league based on a season and a couple games. That's insane. We're not going to say that players are washed after a couple games and they're finished, etc., etc. We're not going to do that, lads. Yeah? We're going to be reasonable, rational on this channel. That's what we like to do. If you want even more content from me, guys, I want more people on the Twitch. I want more people coming over to the Twitch streams. It's even more chilled out there. It's really fun. The real ones are over there. We play games. As I say, Tom Little makes appearances. I might even see if LB wants to play some games with me on Twitch. Who knows? Maybe we'll have LBins on the Twitch. Maybe. I'm not guaranteeing that. I'll think about it. If he even wants to do it. I don't know if LB would even want to do it. That might be fun, though. For example, we're playing Fall Guys on Sunday. So be there for that. There won't be a watch-along tomorrow, but there will be a post-mortem of the Fulham game, because I'll obviously be at the game. So join me on the YouTube for the post-mortem of that. But then on the Sunday, I want you to all, watching now, to join me on Twitch for Fall Guys, yes? Yes, it is exclusive. It is indeed exclusive. There's content you guys are missing out on over there. It's mainly gaming streams, but it's with me. So if you like me, you'll like the content over there. So yes, you should. Go do it. Sometimes we stream exclusively on Twitch. And not just Palmer, it was also the Foden situation, and it was also like the stuff that I was hearing on, like, I was on the Top 6 show on Monday, and also I was going to wrap up a bit, on Monday, and I like Don a lot. I think Don's very funny. But like, Don was saying that, a Chelsea fan, he was saying that Chelsea have the best midfield in the league, and that now Rodri is not available. Caicedo is the best defensive midfielder in the world, in the league, sorry, and Lavia is the second best in the league. Zergan has just followed the Twitch. That should also happen if you subscribe on YouTube. It's really annoying that doesn't happen, but thank you, Zergan, for following the Twitch. Big up to you. I'm indeed going to the game tomorrow, Fuscan, but there will be a post-mortem after. Yeah, so you're saying you got the best... I was like, guys, let's reel it in. Reel it in. So yeah, so we do exclusive stuff. Well done to Zergan for following the Twitch. Hey, we can do... You guys need to do tactical analysis of my Fall Guys game. Yeah? Do that. Do that. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Big up to the support. Once again, thank you so much to Andrew, Tony, and David. Like Tony, especially with the massive super chat of 200 Norwegian kroner. Norwegian kroner. Thank you so much, guys. I will see you tomorrow for the post-mortem and Sunday for Fall Guys. Have a lovely evening, lads. I'll see you then. Bye.